Namaste everyone. Welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. The ongoing sessions are on Bhagavad Gita from an Advaita perspective offered by Bendoji. We are on chapter 6, room number 2. If you want to access the earlier sessions, they are available as replays in Clubhouse if you go to the house, or you can access them in the link shared in the chat. One channel is the YouTube channel called Advaita Retold, where the sessions are well catalogued, and you can access them also in Apple Podcast and Spotify. As a companion reading material, a book has been published by Artemisia, which is again based on Bendoji's insights into Advaita, and it's an excellent companion material for reading, which is available on Amazon. And the links is shared in the chat. I will be closing the chat and hand raising when Bendoji is offering the class, which will last roughly for an hour, after which we'll open up those channels for any questions or clarifications. As always, thank you, Bendoji. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Hari Om and welcome to all of you. My invocation. Ho Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vanshurishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purana Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murtiveda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Gita Dhyana Shlokam Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvandi Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakramो Vanishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyandi Yam Yogino Yasyandam Na Vidustura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Oh. In the last class, we started the 6th chapter, where Krishna started with the Anashrita Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Niragnir Na Cha Akriyaha. That means Yaha Karma Phalam Anashritam Karyam Karma Karoti. One who looking for the result of the work without depending for the fruit of action, continues his obligatory work. Saha sannyasi cha yogi cha. Such a person is a sannyasi and he is also a yogi. That is the difference between sannyasi and yogi in the Laukika world. People call those who are with the sannyasa appearance are called sannyasis, and those who are not but into spiritual practice, meditation, etc., your dhyana, yoga, etc., are called yogis. But Krishna is making a difference. Anashrita karma phalam. Without dependency, ashraya, or without shelter or need for a fruit of action. Whoever continues to act in the world of empirical life, he is indeed a sannyasi and a yogi. Whether he has an attire of a sannyasi or not, he is doing yoga or not, The actual yoga is when you do away with your expectation for the fruits of action, but continue to function your swadharma, your responsibilities and duties, not one who has shrunk away from that. To ensure that people do not misread him, Krishna makes sure that he says that nacha niragnir akriya, not people who are do not do their agnihotradi karma. That is only for as a representation. Agni means expecting agnihotradi, because those days the karma is based on the Vedic rituals. So niragni means one who is not been doing his ordained job or ordained swadharma. Na akriya. Now those who are not in the Vedic, they think the outside the Veda, they are also eligible for sannyasa and yoga. That is very clear from Krishna's way when he say na akriya. When he included na akriya, means those who are not lethargically or as a laziness, do not perform their duties. So he has put a definition to two words which are misused and confused in the empirical world, sannyasi and yogi. So the definition should be kept in the mind when we proceed further in the 6th chapter. With that as a recap, the next verse says, Yam sannyasam iti prahuhu yogam tam vidhi pandava. Nahi sannyasta akasangalpaha yogi bhavati kaschana. Hey Pandava means hey Arjuna. Yam sannyasam iti prahu tam yogam vidhi. Tam yogam vidhi means know that as yoga. That the very thing as yoga. What? Yam sannyasam iti prahu. What people call as sannyasa is yoga. There is no difference between sannyasa and yoga. Know that very thing which the wise call as sannyasa to be yoga. Now he is adding a condition. He means for indeed asanyasta sankalpaha kaschana yogi na bhavati. No one whomsoever becomes a yogi without having renounced sankalpa. Yesterday I said the word sankalpa has got a very special importance in understanding the sannyasa and the yoga. First, let us look at each of these words. Yam means which or that which. Sannyasam, we know the word sannyasa, renunciation. Iti prahu, thus called or thus declared by those who know about it. Tam vidhi yogam. Tam means yam tam. That is that whichever that is. That is it is a connection between the two. What is called as sannyasa is to be known as yoga. Vidhi Pandava. Vidhi. Tam vidhi means know or understand. Pandava means son of Pandu, Arjuna. Arjuna being negated. Not negated. He is being addressed as Pandava, son of Pandu, instead of Arjuna. But the condition that, the sannyasa and yoga is the same, if Krishna says that both sannyasa and yoga is the same, there will be a doubt in the mind of the listener. Why is Krishna saying that sannyasa and yoga is one and the same? Yam tam vidhi. Whatever it is sannyasa, tam vidhi pa yoga. You should understand. But not only that, nahi asanyasta sankalpaha yogi bhavati. Nahi, indeed, negation, asanyasta sankalpa, one who has not renounced sankalpa. So, the chances, no, one who has not renounced sankalpa and the word negation na should not be mixed up. Then what will happen is sanyasta sankalpa will become the sanyasta sankalpa. But the na should be taken with yogi bhavati. Na yogi bhavati. He cannot become a yogi, or he is not a yogi. So, what is that? Kaschana is an indefinite pronoun saying whatsoever, or anyone whatsoever, anybody who is not having, without sannyasa sankalpa, in sankalpa sannyasa, he cannot become a yogi. Na sanyasta sankalpo yena saha is the meaning that he by whom sankalpa has not been abandoned or cast off or renounced is asanyasta sankalpa. Now the word sankalpa is a pivotal word in the Bhashya here, or in the whole verse. Before we get into the Shankaracharya's explanation, the term sankalpa demands a careful attention, because the entire philosophical weight of this verse rests upon this particular word called sankalpa. Sankalpa is not merely a desire, wish, or an intention, which is the colloquial meanings which are available. Sankalpa means we will say it is my sankalpa, means it is my imagination, it is my wish, or it's my desire. Etymologically, sam plus kalpa, the word kalp is to fit, to frame, or to project. Sam is to samyak, means to intensify that. Therefore, the word denotes the volitional projective function of the andakarana, because one of the meaning of the kalpa is to project. So the word when had a suffix of some kalpas, it becomes a volitional projective function of the andakarana. That is, the mind's act of framing a determined intention oriented towards a particular outcome. Understand very clearly. What is meant here in this context is that it is neither the wish or the desire or imagination, etc. But it is the act of the framing in the mind as a determined intention oriented towards a particular outcome. It is this mental act that constitutes a goal as one's own, and which make the inner movement of the ego, ahankara, to make a statement that this fruit of action for me is through my act. Listen carefully. the andakarana is the same, or the inner instruments of mind and intellect is the same. If there is a volitional projective function for the fruit of action, which constitutes the destination for the ego to achieve, and it also makes the volitional movement by the sense organs, both the, jnanendriya, karmendriya, both perception, sense organs of perception and sense organs of action, both get their direction and motivation from the inner equipment, andakarana. And that andakarana, or the mind and the intellect, is now having a projective function towards a fruit of action. That desire, that volition is the reason why the action becomes directed towards. Otherwise, actions are actions. Na kaschit chanama vichadu tishtatya karma krita. Krishna has said that even for an iota of a second, none can remain inactive. But that actions become directed towards a fruit of action because of the ego now assumes the power towards the fruit of action to make a statement that my actions which I directed due to my intention, my sankalpa, for the fruit of action is now fructifying, therefore this fruit is mine. Think carefully. All our actions are driven by this sankalpa. We are unaware of it. So sankalpa has to be understood. Thus, the cognitive volitional root of karma phala ashraya, dependency for the fruit of action as a root, volitional root, cognitive volitional root. In the first verse, Krishna spoke of anashrita karma phala, not depending upon the fruit of action externally. But in this verse, it goes further deeper. The root of that resting is the sankalpa, the ashrayam. Karma phala ashrayam is created by the sankalpa. The dependency for the fruit of action is based on this cognitive volitional root. The projective intention in the mind that the first verse posits, the fruit as desirable, and the claim in the second one as it is one's own anticipated result, completes the process of the avidya or kama karma. So sankalpa is something which is happening in the bosom of all of us, mind and intellect. The cognitive, volitional, projective function. But we are unaware of that. It is that which is prompting me or making me a victim or a dependent for my desire fulfillment. Therefore, I act towards my desire fulfillment, and I am having expectations for the fruits of action, which is called the karma. And if it is denied to me, I become angry. So karma and krodha are the outcomes of this cognitive volitional route. If this aspect of the word sankalpa is understood, let us proceed further. Krishna said that sannyasa and yoga is one and the same, and that is how the wise know about it. Shankaracharya reads the first half of Krishna's deliberate identity statement of sannyasa and yoga, which apparently externally appear to be two distinct paths in the Laukika Buddhi or in the common understanding. Here they are declared to be one and the same by using a conditional clause, yam tam, means that very thing which. That very thing means that sannyasa, which is known as sannyasa, is to be known as yoga also. So sannyasa and yoga are not too different. Krishna is not saying they are similar or complementary. Please understand that. The word is sannyasam cha yogi. That's what is it? He said that vidhi bandava. Know them to be one and the same, not similar, not complementary. He is saying that the very same reality viewed from two different angles will appear to be sannyasa and yoga as two separate. Shankaracharya says this is not a permanent sambuchaya or combination of the angle from which it is being seen, but a demonstration that the inner essence of yoga is renunciation. Yoga is externally what is being seen. Sannyasa is also externally seen. But the moment the inner aspect of the sannyasa and the yoga is understood, they are not two separate. Both the sannyasa and the yoga depend upon the act of renunciation of the sankalpa within. A karma yogin who performs the action without fruit appropriation has already enacted the spirit of sannyasa in his antakarana. The outer label is not mandatory. It is secondary in nature. So the karma yogi, the one who has now appearing to be a yogaruda, he has already done the renunciation at his inner level. Then only he can do it as a karma yoga. Ishwararpana buddhi. All the actions are continued to be done, but the fruits of actions are offered to Ishvara. Sankalpa Tyaga is a non-negotiable condition for success of the sannyasa and the yoga. The second half delivers the invariable concomitants, vyapti, of yogitvam, the statehood of the yogi, as sankalpa sannyasa, as the renunciant of the sankalpa. There is no exception. That is the last word, which is yogi, the kaschana. The kaschana word is for anyone whatsoever. There is no exception. Every yogi attains the yogihood only when he has done the renunciation of the sankalpa. This universality is pointed, and Shankaracharya emphasizes that it does not matter what practice one performs, what ashrama one inhibits, what external austerities or tapas one undertakes. If sankalpa toward the fruits of action has not been relinquished, the yogihood is not simply achievable. So it's very clear. External measurements can never explain or depict the inner condition of a yogi and sannyasi who has achieved that. The external yoga is only a namesake without it. That means all this yoga which is being done for the external body, which Krishna said in the end of the 5th chapter, Bahyasparshan bihi kritva, then Bhror Madhye Chakshu, Pranayama, Samayukta. All these are all external. And if that is not conditioned with the sannyasa or the sankalpa for what it is being done, then he is not a sannyasi nor even a yogi. Therefore, this is the necessary condition, avasyaka antaranga sadhana, or the mandatory inner requirement for whatever may be your state, whether you are a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha or sannyasi, yogi, whatever may be your external means. It's only for the name, but not in achievement. But when we say sankalpa tyaga, we should also know what it does not mean. What it means, what it does not mean. So what it means was said that is cognitive, projective conditions of the antakarana. Here, the Buddhist method or the Shunyavadin, nihilist or Shunyavadin says that sannyasta sankalpa does not have any purpose of the mental activity. Because as per them, Shunyata is the achievement. For Shunyata, you don't have to do anything. So the nihilistic reading is guarded by Shankaracharya saying that sannyasta sankalpa does not mean abolition of all purposive mental activity. Now, here is one catch for it. The word which is used is purposive mental activity. Why did Shankaracharya guard against it? Or why he said that it is not inclusive of the mental activity which has a purpose for behind it? Because it had to understand that in the 6.1, the first stanza, Krishna has meant that karyam karma karoti yaha. One still performs the duty enjoyed or swadharma, what is supposed to be meant for living. That action continues. So sankalpa sannyasa doesn't make you a what you call inert stone-like person. You are not going to sit in a cave or a mountain top or a riverbed or leaving house and all activities, responsibilities, and saying that I am a sannyasi, a yogi. I am sangal, I am tyaga. All my sankalpa, I am doing the tyaga of it. That is not what it means. Because karyam karma karoti, one has to perform the duties. Otherwise, the purpose of the what you call the karma chakra, the yoga karma chakra, which was mentioned in the 3rd chapter, that will not happen. If adharma comes, who will retain other dharma in the world? If family protection, feeding of your family and children are required, it has to be done. For your own body, you need to feed it. You need to feed it with food and water. All these things are activities. So, total inactivity is not what is meant by sannyasa sankalpa. The mental framing of action for the sake of personal pursuit is what it means. The personal pursuit or the possessive identification, mama phalam idam, this fruit of action is mine. The anticipatory orientation of the will toward the self-referential outcome. These are to be relinquished. Sankalpa that is to be dropped is the fruit-directed intention. Not all intention whatsoever. The intention to do swadharma or one's own duty, which is for the world, for the empirical world, for the family, for your own body, that is not fruit intended. That is swabhava. We have learned that swabhavastu pravartate. Everything works as per the nature in which it has been created. But the intention that it is mine and appropriation of that for a selfish need, creating it as a desire, kama, and the objection of it becomes krodha. So kama, krodha are the two vairis or two enemies which Krishna has said earlier. So that becomes a dharmic action if you continue to do your swadharma without directing toward the fruit of action. But dedicating it as a Ishwararpana or a expression of swadharma, keeping aside the egoic claim for the result, then everything in the world will perform. You will not be bound by the ego-directed activities. So sankalpa can be seen, the positive and negative aspects. Therefore, it should be seen as an avidya's instrument. From the standpoint of avidya, sankalpa is the operative tool of avidya at the level of the antakarana. The antakarana, where the knowledge has to take place and the realization and emancipation and the aparoksha anubhava has to take place, is the same place where that is being prohibited or prevented when the sankalpa is present. Consider the structure. Avidya projects the jiva as a separate agent, karta. And that separate agent experiencing itself as a distant and incomplete Purusha. Apurna. Purnatvam is not experienced by him. Completeness. Therefore, naturally, he reaches outward towards objects and outcome to fill the sense of lack. Why do we have desire? to fill up the lack of want. The want is created due to the incompleteness, and the incompleteness is created by the sankalpa, which feels that the fruit of action should be mine to complete me, and it will make me full, complete, purna. Therefore, sankalpa is precisely this reaching out of the mental activity where it prompts that I need the result of this action to become complete. Thus, sankalpa tyaga is not merely an ethical discipline. It is avidya operational at its functional root, which is being weakened when the sankalpa is tyaga or renounced. Each relinquishment of the fruit directed sankalpa is loosening the ahankara, the knot of avidya and the jnana, avidya, kama karma. The very note that in the bhashya, adhyasa bhashya, which identifies as the false superimposition of the bhoktrutva, that aham karta, aham bhokta, on whom kevalo nirgunascha, I am the nirguna chaitanya, kevalo, sakshi, chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. On that, I become incomplete, and that incompleteness is now prompted by the sankalpa as an avidya and creates me to do all the activities. The sankalpa, if we have understood very clearly, the sankalpa tyaga helps us to move from the karma bhumika to jnana bhumika, or from the field of karma to the field of knowledge. So, sankalpa tyaga is a transitional discipline that purifies the antakarana sufficiently by chitta shuddhi for the atma jnana to arise. The karma yogi who consistently relinquishes the fruit desired directed sankalpa gradually graduates by exhausting the projective energy of kama and krodha. Because kama feeds on sankalpa as its life breath. The sankalpa is the breath for desire or intention or kama or volition. This verse, sankalpa tyaga at its most precise antidote at the volitional level, is what is being taught by Krishna. When this sankalpa is stilled, kama gets starvation. Kama is starved. And when kama starves, chitta shuddhi starts maturing. Otherwise, what happens? It is like you are planted a sapling, and your kama, you are pulling it out every day to check how much the root has grown. Do you think the sapling will grow? No. The chitta shuddhi will grow only when the kama, to know what the root of the tree is growing or not. That is not the intention which we are putting the sapling. The karma is being done without kama. The sapling is being implanted, but there is no desire for the sapling to grow or the fruit of the sapling to come to me. It is my job to do the sapling which has been done, and I forget about it. I am not even thinking about it. That is the time when the tree or the sapling will nourish itself by the sunlight and the mud and the fertilizer which is available. The growing of the tree doesn't need you anymore. Same way, the Chitta Shuddhi becoming pure doesn't need any special action from us. All what we have to do is to prepare the ground for the Chitta Shuddhi to grow by keeping the Sankalpa not come every now and then to destroy the Chitta Shuddhi. And when the Chitta Shuddhi matures, the Adhikara for the yogi and the sannyasi for Kevala Jnana Nishta matures, ripens. In such a person only the Jnana Nishta takes place. So yoga and sannyasa are the two descriptions, but one inner poise or andasthiti. By equating sannyasa and yoga by Krishna reinforces sannyasi cha yogi cha. Shankaracharya consistently resists the external bifurcation of yoga and sannyasa, of the spiritual path, into two separate tracks for two separate adhikaris or class of persons. The varnashrama frame gives the different outer forms, but the inner sadhana is singular whether you are in any of the ashrama. Non-grasping, non-projecting, non-appropriation of the fruits of action. At whatever stage of life you are. That is simultaneously the renunciation of sannyasa, and it is also a discipline which is called the yoga. It is a sannyasa of the fruit of actions and the yoga of the focused engagement. This non-dual reading of the two paths as one and the same is the mirror which non-dual Advaita harps upon. Just as Brahman and Atman are not two. Names are two, but they are not two. Same way, sannyasa and yoga are not two. They are one and the same when rightly understood. Both of them, the sannyasa and the yoga, or the verses 60.1 and 6.2, are tightly interlocked, apparent duality. In the 6.1, Anashrita Karma Phalam defines the Karma Yogi's positive attitude. In the 6.2, Na Asanyasta Sankalpa defines the yoga condition negatively. In the first verse, that shows the fruit of non-appropriation as a mark of true sannyasa, while second verse shows the sankalpa renunciation as the root condition for yoga. 6.1 rejects the external renunciation and inaction, that is niragni na akriya. And the 6.2 identifies the internal renunciation that is the real criteria, not the external niragni or akriya. 6.1 makes sure that karyam karma karodiyaha, that means the outer action continues. Whereas 6.2 says the inner volition is oriented for ceasing toward the fruits of action, not the action by itself. Therefore, the transformation of the individual takes place from the clutches of kama and krodha. So together they establish the locus of renunciation is the andakarana dharma as the duty of the inner instrument, not that of the ashrama to which each of them belong. So the characteristic renunciation of all actions and fruits is clearly mentioned in the Shruti and Smriti. What is the Paramartha Sannyasa? That which is yoga and characterized by the performance of action is one and the same, is what Krishna says. So from all these things, it is very clear that Karma Yoga is engagement in action. Sannyasa is withdrawal from internal action. When the Sankalpa Tyaga takes place, the renunciation is intention or desire of the fruits is the internal doership and the enjoyership. That is what is created by the Sankalpa. That is renounced. So a Paramartha Sannyasi, he abandons action inwardly and externally he has no desire for the fruit of action. So when these two are understood, we have to keep it in mind that what is the nature in which the sannyasi and yogi will be seen in the world. They will be like any other ordinary person. You can be a sannyasi and yogi in this very moment. You don't have to take practice or go through rigorous renunciation and, yoga, etc. All what is that Krishna is asking is Sankalpa Tyaga. The Sankalpa in the mind. And Sankalpa is only in the mind. Which is born out of a feeling of incompleteness as individuals, separates us from the completeness which is our Atma Swarupa or our innate Swarupa. It is this Sankalpa which creates the separation, thereby the individuality. It happens at the Antakarana level. When I become an individual, I have the sense of incompleteness because the individual can never sense the Shanti which Krishna mentioned in the last chapter. Ashantasya kutasukam. When you don't have the Shanti or the peace of mind or the tranquility, we cannot have the completeness that what you call Akshaya Shanti, which was mentioned in the last chapter. The imperishable peace which is within, that can never be felt, known or understood or appreciated by us, even though that is our true nature this very moment. because of our sankalpa that we are limited individuals. The human nature, the humanness associating with the andakarana or the inner instrument as I am that, which is being felt in the andakarana. Mano buddhi ahankara chitta. In that ahankara, which depends upon the mano and buddhi, using the chitta, memory, embedded details, data, I become a limited individual. Once I become a limited individual, I need to regain my lost paradise, for which my completeness is my intention. But I do not know that I am innately or by default full and purna, because I am now associating myself as the ego, which is the sankalpa in the antakarana. Therefore, the sankalpa, the intention, the cognitive, projective intention at the mental level is the sankalpa. Through the sense organs, looks towards the Vishaya or the sense objects, thinking that these sense objects, when I acquire, aggrandize or make it my own, I will become full. Therefore, the desire to get them, aggrandize them or make it my own prompts me to act towards desired results. So desired prompted action driven by the desire of objects which is external to me, seeing them as separate because of I separated myself as an ego individual, not realizing Sarvam Khalidam Brahma, I am that Brahman which is everything. So when this overtakes us, we become ordinary human being, driven by the need to acquire, aggrandize and make my own everything which is desired by me. Once we learn from this verse that it is the sankalpa tyaga or the abandonment of the fruits of action, not the action per se. Because action continues as a default, because that is the nature. Svabhavastu pravartate. It is the nature in which the eyes are seeing, the ears are hearing, the moon, the smell, touch, taste, everything. The organs of breathing and walking, eating, progeny, etc. all are happening naturally. There is no I related to that. It is what is happening as a nature in the scheme of things of the waker. The moment I become the antakarana sankalpa along with the sankalpa, I separate out from the nature of habit of things happening. I desire that things should happen the way I desire it to want, because I want things to fulfill myself. This makes my life samsara. And that is why the fruit of action is what is binding us and keeping us the human beings. We are not human beings, because the antakarana is saying we are human beings. The antakarana, because of the sankalpa, we identify ourselves as the individualized ego. To break free from this, the emancipation, the freedom, or the aparoksha anubhava. The aparoksha anubhava is not something which is going to happen later in time and space and time. It is happening this very moment. That is what we are. But what is shrouding it or clouding it or controlling it or not making us realize is this sankalpa, which is there in our antakarna. So sankalpa tyaga is the only way, for which Krishna will explain what are the steps, methodology, how to identify that, how to be careful about it, all those things. Actually, I said 30 plus verses are there. Total 47 verses are there in the 6th chapter. Out of that, the first one and second one we have completed. We have used 2 lectures for that. Doesn't matter that the remaining may need each one lecture. No. Some verses may need one full class, but some other can be combined together with multiple verses. So we will continue with what is the sannyasa and yogi. What is the requirement for the sannyasi? What is the requirement as a yogi? What is a yoga ruda and what is a yoga, Arurukshu and Arudha. One who is desiring to become a yogi and one who has become a yogi, what are their requirements? These are all being explained by Krishna in the next verse. We'll see that tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vaishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Yes, thank you very much, Binduji. I've opened the chat and hand raising for any follow-up questions or discussions.
Pranam everyone. Thank you.
Pranam.
One,
Good night.
I want one clarification. Like, doing this sankalpa, like for doing some work or maybe trying to do something, but there is no attachment to that sankalpa. In a sense, for our external reality, I have to do things. There might be some sankalpa like I have to complete this, I have to complete this in certain given time. But sometimes it doesn't happen. So inner renunciation will help. Like, okay, it doesn't matter. Let it be.
What Krishna is saying is, your actions will be incomplete if your one eye is onto the fruit of action. Just like the example which I said about the sapling being kept in this thing by you. Every day you pull it up and then check. Is exactly what you are asking now. The action which is to be done, you have. That is why Krishna said, no, karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kata jana. Ma phala parputu mate sangastu akarmani. Both he said that you should not become inactive because I am saying you should not be interested in the fruit of action. He has said that earlier. What does it mean? It only means that actions which are happening will have to be done by us. The ego which says, I am doing the action, will come only when you have that fruit of action as, I need the fruit of action. Otherwise, the actions which are happening, do you have that I want to breathe? Do you have an intention or a desire or sankalpa to that I should breathe? You don't have a fruit of action. The action continues. The fruit goes on. The action continues. You don't have a fruit of desire for that action to be controlled or done anything. But those who do pranayama, they want to become a yogi. So there is a fruit of action requirement for them. They continue to do the pranayama, the normal breathing, through pranayama, thinking that they will become a yogi because of that. But Krishna says that that is not what yogi or sannyasi. Yogi and sannyasi is the one who rejects or renunciates the outcome of any action, whether it is a yogi or a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, Veda Brahmins or non-Brahmins, Chandala or Kshatriya, doesn't matter. Because all the actions in this world are happening by default. Our ego coming in between thinking that I am the doer is not making the action inefficient. Not only that, it is also making everyone else affected by your selfishness, because you need the result for the action. So no action will ever stop if you don't want to stop it. And if you are not doing it, it is because you are desired to not to do it.
Decide to not to do it. I couldn't get that part.
In every action, everything in this world is happening by default, which is called the swabhava. Only actions where we interfere with our ego, with a desire to get a certain result, that gets affected by human intervention.
Being
Otherwise,
conscious,
everything in this world will happen.
being conscious of something, or maybe being like recognizing that I am like it was like I was unconscious of that at that moment. So both are irrelevant then, in a sense.
Kritarth, you should understand, in your everyday, how many actions are naturally happening without you knowing it in your life? From breathing onward to walking to sometimes sleeping, dreaming, all these things are happening without your intervention. The places where your intervention is coming, where you have a desire that I want to do this thing, I want to go to Lucknow, I want to go to Banaras, or I want to, like that, if you have this thing, desire, then there will be a activity which is happening. But it is activity, you will go to Lucknow, you will go to Banaras, but if you don't have the desire that I have to go to Lucknow, but your action is to do, it is my swadharma or my duty to go to Lucknow for meeting the university student or read somebody, or it is my duty to go to the hospital in Banaras. That if you think it as your duty, not as your desire, the difference between the duty and desire have to be understood. The work is being done when it is a duty. The same work, when it is supposed to be done as a duty, gets hampered when it becomes a desire. Namaste, Jesse.
Namaste, Bindoji. Hello, Prakashi. Thank you for your question. And it's just perfect timing because I was about to ask the question that I think you might have just answered. So I love it when you do that. And you do that often, by the way.
I see.
You do. Congratulations to you in my heart. So I was perplexed about this question. When we dedicate ourselves to the work of the welfare for others, like I've started a number of nonprofit organizations, I know what budget goals are and how many people to serve, that kind of thing. When we work for the welfare of others and we make promises to utilize public funds, for a group's benefit and welfare. And I do consider it a duty, but I just was thinking, how can I not look at those results? Because I have to advertise or I am held accountable, not advertise, but I am held accountable for those results. What return on investment did we, were we able to produce for the amount of public funds that were garnered? And so I think you just answered the question for me with it is the distinction between duty, taking on a duty, which is kind of like a calling actually, right? Like I take on this assignment. I bring on and take on this assignment to work for this common goal for the welfare versus my individuated desire. And so that's kind of where I was heading in. How do we work for the welfare of others in a pure sense without caring about what the results are? I care very deeply whether I meet those goals that are my duties. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessie. I don't have to explain anything further because you understood it perfectly.
Okay then.
Okay, Prakash.
That's what
Thank you.
listening to you does to me. Many blessings. And I miss you, and I hope you're doing super well with your family and beloveds.
Yes, I am doing very well. Thank you, Jessie. By August 16th, I will be back in India, and then we'll resume our old timing after that.
Sure. Bindu.
Okay, Prakash.
All right. We'll thank you everyone for coming. The session is available as replay if you want to do the Shravana Manana, and reconvene tomorrow at same time, 6:30 a.m. IST, where we'll have room number 3 of chapter 6. And the earlier rooms are available on YouTube and other channels shared in the chat. As always, heartfelt thanks to Bindoji for guiding us through this deep contemplation of sannyasa and yoga. Over to you, Bindoji, to close the room.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Jessie. Thank you, Krutat, for your questions. And thank you all for listening. We will continue to the third verse tomorrow. Same time. Have a nice day. Hari Om.
Yeah.